thought Tony Petitti did a good job of getting us started at day one of Big Ten Media Days by addressing a number of things. The first one is, it's an 18-team league, and we're going to try to make sure that all 18 football teams get an opportunity to showcase who they are and what they are about at times when it matters most. You're going to notice there aren't any conference games during week one, and that is by design. In years past, you've seen a Thursday night game kicking off Big Noon or kicking off the season, but they're not doing that this year. They wanted to have a schedule that took advantage of the latter half of the season when meaningful games need to be played inside of conference play to give your conference members the best opportunity to make the 12-team extended playoff. I think most of us believe that the Big Ten champion is not the only Big Ten team that is going to get in. Probably the other team that makes the Big Ten championship and loses, and perhaps even a third or a fourth team in the standings, because we don't have divisions anymore. It's just going to be best on best, which means that we could see Ohio State, Michigan play each other back-to-back, which would be pretty outstanding and cool. On top of Penn State might actually make a Big Ten championship game for the first time in over a half a decade. I'm also looking at this from the standpoint of the Big Ten is going to play meaningful conference football games on Friday nights, Saturday morning noon, depending on where you are in the United States, and the late afternoon and in the evening. So you have spread this out across 3 broadcast networks. You have said, we're going to take Friday night over. RJ, you're going to have to get back here from watching high school football games and going on the trail to try to figure out what recruits are doing and how to get back to watch meaningful college football games on Friday night. You're going to wake up early in the morning, and then you're going to cover the big noon kickoff game. And then you're going to go from Fox to CBS, right, to watch the 2:30 window, 3:30 window that they're traditionally used to having in the SEC. And then you're going to watch a 7:30 game on NBC, right? That is also a Big Ten game. I think that's fantastic scheduling if you're the conference commissioner. And it is taking advantage of a couple of things. One, not everybody that watches college football goes to games. I know this because I'm one of those people. But also, this is getting into the craw of people that go to football games. The 84,000 at Oklahoma, for instance, they did not like 11 a.m. kickoffs, because that's what it was in the state of Oklahoma, or Central Standard Time here, because you didn't get your full tailgate experience. And every university in the world wants to have their game day experience be the best possible for the fans that are attending. They know it's a chore. They know the tickets cost a lot, and they know that your cost around just the ticket are a lot. They want you to have a good time. It's difficult to have a good time when it feels like you're over and done with half the day, and then you got to go home. What you want is for the tailgate to get started at 9, 10 a.m. in the morning, and then you're watching games all the way up until your game is played, hopefully at night. So you get the full game day experience. Everybody else gets to go before you do. You are the main event. You get to enjoy all of the prelims. When you feel like a prelim to the main event, which is what Oklahoma did, you don't feel so good about that. You're up at 5 in the morning trying to make sure that everybody's out of bed, into the van, and on its way to the tailgate event. And then as soon as the pregame shows are ending, you're got to be in the stadium for kickoff. And it's not that much fun. However, I think that Big Noon also was really cool because it identified a market inefficiency where people would watch the pregame shows and still be on the couch ready to watch a good football game, and you'd have crappy football games. We'd have to wait till 2:30 for a good football game, and then you're into it for the rest of the day. What if you could get people to go from the pregame show to an enormously massive, awesome football game? They're probably going to stick. They're probably going to stick with you, and you're probably going to see returns on that. And that's what happened with B&K, and it works. It's a very good broadcast. Gus and Joel are two of the best to do it, man. And I have a lot of fun watching it, but also it informs the viewing experience. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. It ain't the 84,000 that we're always thinking about. It is the millions of us that ain't at games that want to watch as much football as we possibly can. And I watch as much football as I possibly can. Tony Petitti talked a little bit about the cheating scandal at Michigan, and I thought he was diplomatic in what he had to say. Look, we wanted to make sure that the punishment fit the crime. He also reminded people, hey, I come from Major League Baseball, where they kind of had this thing with the Houston Astros we had to deal with. But we're still waiting on what the NCAA is going to have to say, if anything, about what is going to happen to Michigan. I think something's going to happen to Michigan, but we don't know what that is or when that's coming. But when it does, we will talk about it. And then he was able to definitely hand it off to some coaches that were doing a really good job of positioning themselves and their programs heading into 2024. Brett Bielema told an outstanding story about recruiting former Texas player Terrence Brooks to the Illini, and I thought that was pretty great. I thought the way in which he told these recruiting stories reminds me that Brett Bielema really loves recruiting. So the story he told is, we wanted Terrence Brooks. We reached out to him, but his father wanted to take over the conversation because Terrence was in the middle of finals. He did not want to interrupt him with perhaps where he might be going the next year. He wanted him to finish what he was doing that semester. So the Illini coaching staff only talked to Terrence Brooks' parents for about a full week. And when Brooks finally entered the portal, Bielema told his assistant Aaron Henry, you're going to Dallas and you're going to go talk to these parents. I don't even care if he's not there. You're going to go talk to them because we want him there. That is outstanding recruiting, and I love hearing that story. It also kind of reinforces what Brett Bielema does well, right? He is a great people person. He is able to get himself across, and he's going to listen to you. If you want to talk to him and he doesn't want to, you don't want to put your kid on Front Street right now because you want him to finish, he's going to do that too. I thought that Greg Schiano got his chest out a little bit. He's having fun watching him. Greg Schiano is the winningest coach in Rutgers history. However, he's 7-6 last year, which is great for Rutgers, right? It is their first winning season since 2014. And yeah, they got 9 all-conference players coming back, led by Kyle Montagai, who might be the best running back in the Big Ten again, right? He was Big Ten's leading rusher last year. He's also got Ethan Kaliakmanis and Kirk Soraka coming over from Minnesota. Kirk Soraka, who helped Tanner Morgan become that dude that led Minnesota to 11 wins. Maybe he's got something in Ethan Kaliakmanis. We'll see. I haven't seen it, but I would like to think that Kaliakmanis was going to grow into a pretty decent quarterback. But one of the things that Schiano said, 2 things he said that kind of stuck with me. One is, I didn't come out of retirement to not win a conference championship at Rutgers. Matter of fact, the quote is, I didn't come out of retirement to win a bowl game. I came out of retirement to win a championship at Rutgers. Rutgers ain't won a championship since 2012. You know who was head coach then? It wasn't Greg Schiano. It was Kyle Flood. Now, it's a co-championship in the Big East, but you get my point here. The Scarlet Knights also lay claim to the 1869 national championship, which I think is funny because Rutgers has been playing college football longer than anybody, and yet they've been sorry for 150 of those 155 years, more or less, right? It's funny. It also is a thing where he's asked what I think every Rutgers coach should be asked. Why haven't you put a rope up around the state of New Jersey? Because if you just do that, Rutgers is a top 10 program. To which he says, look, I recruited Max Melton. Max Melton ends up being a pretty damn good football player and an NFL draft pick, and he wasn't rated among the top 20 players in the state of New Jersey. I know more about recruiting than the guys that make recruiting rankings. All right, cool. That's great. That's great. That's awesome. You do. I'm sure you do. You're Greg Schiano, right? You've won games at Rutgers. Ain't a whole lot of people that can say that. However, I'm just going to go through the list right quick. Saquon Barkley was committed to Rutgers. He went to Penn State. Jonathan Taylor was committed to Rutgers. He went to Wisconsin. Both those dudes became legends at those respective institutions. And then here's a list of dudes that I just kind of pulled out that are from New Jersey. They played high school football in New Jersey and didn't go to Rutgers. All right, check it. It's a wild list. All right, Minka Fitzpatrick, who won a Thorpe Award in 2019. He went to Alabama. He from New Jersey. Rashawn Gary. He went to Michigan. He from New Jersey. Jabril Peppers. He went to Michigan. He from New Jersey. Greg Olsen went to Miami. He from New Jersey. Brian Cushing went to USC. He from New Jersey. Tamba Ali, Noshawn Marino, Eli Apple. Those are dudes that I could just pull out. New Jersey just be making hitters. They just be making studs. What if them studs went to the State College in New Jersey? What if they decided they were going to go to Piscataway for college? My God, that could be outstanding. That said, Greg Schiano has every reason to believe his Rutgers team is going to be good because they finished 7-6, which was also the record of the Wisconsin Badgers last year. And I say that because Wisconsin has the dubious honor of winning the most games by any program in the Power Conference in the last 10 years that hasn't made the college football playoff. 90 wins in 10 years by Wisconsin. no trip to the college football playoff. They finished 7-6 last year with a loss to LSU in the ReliaQuest Bowl. They added 16 transfers, and by comparison, Colorado added 42, Clemson added 0, so that's about right where you expect to be. And they got a couple dudes on offense that I really love. Hunter Wohler is that guy. You're going to hear me talk about him quite a bit. He was their leading tackler at the box safety position. Then Ricardo Hallman is also a dude. 7 interceptions, and he's had 1 pick return for a TD. I think they're going to be fine on defense, but it's about their offense. Can Tyler Van Dyke do what Tanner Mordecai could not do? Is Ches Malusi going to take the leap now that he's coming back and there's no Braylon Allen back there? We'll see, right? I think Wisconsin's going to have a tough road. They got Alabama and USC in back-to-back weeks, but if they get those wins, we're going to have nice things to say about Wisconsin. They could put themselves in position to be one of those teams making the extended college football playoff. I also think that Northwestern could be a sleeper here. They weren't expected to do anything. They were expected to probably finish dead last in the Big Ten last year. David Braun, year 1, flips the script, man. Wins 8 games, gets the job, but this year he's got a gauntlet run. They got Wisconsin, at Iowa, at Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan in weeks 7 through 11. They're going to get hit, right? And if they can pick up 3 wins in there, let's say they beat Wisconsin, Iowa, Purdue, lose to Ohio State, Michigan, still going to be a pretty damn good year for Northwestern as I see it. Ryan Walters got up there, and he had to hear that Big Ten media poll picked the Purdue Boilermakers to finish dead last in this conference season, and a lot of this is about their schedule, right? They are also in a really interesting position. Coming off 4-8, they've seen the most ticket sales that they've ever seen since 2017. I say ever seen. That they've seen since 2007, not 2017. So there's been some time between now and then, but I was going, how does a team that goes 4-8 end up with its most ticket sales since 2007? And the answer is schedule. They got home games against Notre Dame week 3, Nebraska week 5. They got a Friday night game against Oregon, and they got a game against Penn State. That's a really great home schedule for West Lafayette. So you have an opportunity to go do what you haven't done in some time. Matter of fact, the last time I think that Purdue might have had this kind of opportunity might have been when Rondale Moore went ape against Ohio State on a Saturday night game where Dwayne Haskins, RIP, was still the quarterback there. I had fun watching that game. Maybe they got one of those with Hudson Card and Graham Harrell coming back. Last year was Hudson Card's first year as a starter. They've turned over some of the offense, but they're really good on defense. I think they got one of the better safeties in the country, and I think they got really guys that can make it happen on that defense. And remember, when Ryan Walters was defense coordinator at Illinois, didn't nobody want to play against Illinois defense. I think if you can get some of that at Purdue, they're going to be great. Last note that I want to get out of here on is Ohio State. Question I was asked earlier this week was, is Ohio State still soft? And it was, it was tongue-in-cheek because that was kind of the thing last year. Is this team tough? They're talented, but are they tough? And their toughness being questioned is really getting under their skin. I think they're going to have an opportunity to show toughness. They're also trying to put away this narrative of their talent. They are the most talented football team in the country. They don't want to talk about it anymore. They want to talk about toughness. They want to talk about grit. They want to talk about this preseason and what they got to get figured out on the non-talent side. But you know what it is. Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs, Will Howard. They got everybody at wide receiver. I thought Ryan Day went out of his way at the days not to name Jeremiah Smith by name, which I thought was interesting. But it's also their longest stretch without a Big Ten title since 2011, 2013. But I throw that one out because everybody knows that 2012, Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes went undefeated. They would have probably won the Big Ten title if they'd have been allowed to play in it, but they had a bowl ban. So really, I take it back to 1986 and 1993 between Earl Bruce and John Cooper as the longest drought that they've had since this drought without a Big Ten championship. And that has got to be wearing on Ryan Day and on Buckeye fans. And they know it's going to take more than talent. They know they got a hole they got to fill at right guard, and they got to figure out whether or not Tegrity Shabola is that dude, what they're going to do with what Justin Fryer's going to do. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. I think they're going to be able to run the football. I know that I'm just saying that. I know that there's folks that don't even think that Will Howard is the best quarterback in that room. I think he's the best for what they're doing. I think that Will Howard just needs to be Craig Krenzel, be a guy that operates the offense, and when there's time to take off and run and make something happen, do that. But you ain't got to be Justin Fields. You ain't got to be C.J. Stroud. Well, I'm not going to use C.J. Stroud. He never beat Michigan. But you get my point there, right? You don't have to be the best player on the team. You just got to distribute it to these great playmakers that you're going to have all around you. But the last thing that I thought Ryan Day had to say, which was most important to me, is you're expected to win them all. If you don't think that's true, try losing a game at Ohio State. To which I'll just give you some numbers. Ryan Day is 56-8. He's 0-3 against Michigan since 2019, and he's 0-2 in his last 2 college football playoff appearances, one being the national championship game in Alabama against Alabama in 2020, and the other one being a playoff game against Georgia, where if Noah Ruggles makes a field goal, they probably win a national championship because we think that team would have beat Texas Christian. Never mind that Texas Christian beat the Michigan team that beat Ohio State earlier in the year. It doesn't matter, Ohio State fans. You got to win them all. You got to win them all. I know that I continue to say that the one that everybody cares the most about is Michigan, because you can go 11-1 and people will call it a crap season because you lost to Michigan, which means that if you go 9-3 but you beat Michigan, you're not really going to be happy about that because you're probably not going to make the Big Ten championship game, and you're going to have to depend on the mercies of the 12-team playoff selection committee to make it into the college football playoff. And, they have a history of going, hey, we think that team looked really good, and Ohio State has that going for them. They look really good, so maybe that's the thing. But he's under a tremendous amount of pressure. It's why he handed off the play calling privileges to Chip Kelly. It's why Chip Kelly's going to get to know the personnel, and he's going to run Ryan Day's offense. It's going to be fine, but it'll freeze Ryan Day up to be more of a head coach and less of a play caller. As we get closer and closer to the season, we'll see how that kind of bears out. But we're not really going to know much about this Ohio State team until the middle of the season, when it becomes clear whether or not they can run the football and whether or not their defense continues to be their defense, and whether or not the offense can still be the offense. Like, over the last 5 seasons, Ryan Day's offense has averaged 41.8 points per game. Scoring ain't been the problem until recently. So we'll see what that looks like. I have more to say about this a little bit later on. Be sure to check the channel. And if you are here, please consider subscribing. We're on the march to 100,000 subscribers, which is awesome.